The year was 2387, and space was quiet in the outer rim of the galaxy. Most alien races called this area the dead zone because nothing interesting ever happened here. No valuable planets, no rich mining worlds, just empty space with a few small colonies scattered around. Commander Hyunwoo sat in his captain's chair aboard the UES Defiance, a human patrol ship that looked old and beaten up from the outside. His crew was small but good at their jobs. Navigator So-jin checked their course, while engineer Tae-ho kept the engines running smooth. Communications officer Da-yoon monitored the radio channels for any signs of trouble. The Defiance was doing routine patrol work near the edge of human space when Da-yoon picked up something strange on her sensors. "Commander, I'm getting readings of a large fleet approaching from the Vorthak Empire sector," she said, looking worried. Hyunwoo had heard of the Vorthaks. They were a warrior race that had conquered 17 star systems in the past 50 years. They were known for being cruel and aggressive, taking what they wanted by force. "How many ships?" he asked. "At least 200 vessels, sir." "Looks like a full invasion fleet," Da-yoon replied. So-jin looked up from her navigation console. "They're heading straight for human space. At their current speed, they'll reach our outer colonies in 3 days. Hyunwoo thought for a moment. The standing orders were clear when dealing with unknown hostile forces. Observe, record, and report back to Earth Command. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Take us closer, but keep us hidden. I want to see what they're planning." The Defiance moved quietly through space, using its stealth systems to avoid detection. The human ship looked like just another piece of space junk floating in the void. This was exactly how humans liked it. Let other races think they were weak and primitive. As they got closer to the Vorthak fleet, Hyunwoo could see the alien ships clearly. They were massive black vessels covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Each ship looked like it was built for war and nothing else. The largest ship in the center had to be their command vessel. "Sir, they're scanning us," Tae-ho said from his engineering station. "Should I raise shields?" "No, let them scan. Show them what they expect to see," Hyunwoo ordered. The scan lasted several minutes. Then a harsh voice came through the communication system. It was speaking in broken human language. "Primitive vessel, you will surrender immediately. Your species is now under Vorthak rule. Resistance will result in destruction." Hyunwoo stood up and activated the communication system. He spoke in a calm, polite voice. "This is Commander Hyunwoo of the United Earthship Defiance. You are entering human space without permission. I suggest you turn around and go back where you came from." There was silence for a moment. Then the sound of alien laughter came through the speakers. "Human, your tiny ship is no match for our fleet. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your people will serve us or die." "I understand you think that," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "But I'm telling you politely to leave our space. This is your only warning." More laughter came from the Vorthak ship. "You dare threaten us? We will show you what happens to those who oppose the Vorthak Empire." The alien fleet suddenly changed course. Instead of heading toward the main human colonies, they turned toward a nearby mining station called New Hope. It was a small facility, with about 800 civilian workers mining asteroids for rare metals. "Sir, they're targeting New Hope Station," So-jin said with alarm in her voice. Hyunwoo grabbed the communication controls. "Vorthak fleet, that is a civilian facility. There are no military targets there. Those are innocent people." "Exactly," came the reply. "Your people will learn to fear us. This is what happens when you resist." The Defiance watched helplessly as the Vorthak fleet opened fire on New Hope Station. The mining facility had no weapons and no defenses. It was destroyed in minutes. 847 human civilians died in the attack. Da-yoon was crying at her station. Tae-ho slammed his fist on his console. So-jin just stared at the empty space where the station used to be. These were people they knew, friends, and families of other humans. Hyunwoo felt cold anger building inside him. The Vorthaks had just made the biggest mistake in their history. They had killed innocent humans. "Da-yoon, open a channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." "Channel open, sir." she said, wiping tears from her eyes. Earth Command, this is Commander Hyunwoo aboard the Defiance. The Vorthak Empire has just destroyed New Hope Station. 847 civilians are dead. The aliens rejected our warning and chose to murder innocent people. He paused for a moment. The line has been crossed. Recommend immediate activation of all defensive protocols. Understood, Defiance. Message received and logged. Return to base immediately, came the reply from Earth. As the Defiance turned away from the destruction, Hyunwoo looked at his crew. The Vorthaks think they just won an easy victory. They think we're weak and scared. They have no idea what they just started. So-jin looked at her commander. What do you mean, sir? The Vorthaks have been conquering other species for 50 years. Those other races probably begged for mercy or tried to negotiate, but they don't understand humans. Hyunwoo's voice was cold and hard. We don't forgive those who murder our people, and we definitely don't forget. The Vorthak fleet continued deeper into human space, feeling proud of their easy victory. War Prime Kethvar, their leader, was pleased with how quickly the humans had run away. Their single ship had fled without even trying to fight. This conquest would be easier than he thought, but if Kethvar could have seen inside human space, he would have been terrified. Hidden bases were powering up. Weapon systems that had been sleeping for decades were coming online. Ships that looked like cargo vessels were dropping their disguises to reveal military hardware. Most importantly, every human in the galaxy now knew that aliens had killed their people. And humans had a very simple rule about that. No matter how long it took, no matter what it cost, they would make the killers pay. The Vorthaks thought they were starting a conquest. They had no idea they were walking into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history. The humans had been waiting for this day for over 200 years. War was coming, and the aliens were about to learn why nobody invaded human space. 3 days after destroying New Hope Station, the Vorthak fleet moved deeper into human space. War Prime Kethvar expected to find busy colonies full of scared humans begging for mercy. Instead, he found something very strange. The human colonies were empty. Where did they all go? Asked Sub-Commander Veltok as he looked at the scanner readings from his station. Kethvar studied the data from their sensors. The colonies showed signs of recent activity but no life forms. Buildings were intact but nobody was home. Space stations orbited planets with their lights on, but no one answered their communication attempts. They must have run away when they heard we were coming, Kethvar said with satisfaction. Word of our victory at their mining station has spread fear through their entire species. This will be even easier than I thought. The Vorthak ships spread out across 12 human star systems. They found the same thing everywhere. Empty colonies, abandoned space stations, and no sign of resistance. The few human ships they detected were clearly evacuation vessels running away at top speed. Sir, should we destroy the fleeing ships? Asked Veltok. No, let them run, Kethvar replied. Let them spread word of our power to the rest of their kind. Fear is a weapon too. What the Vorthaks didn't know was that every fleeing human ship was carefully watching them. The evacuation had been planned and practiced for over 50 years. Every human civilian had been moved to safety behind something called the Maginot Line, a defensive border deep inside human space. On Earth, Admiral Jaemin sat in the war room, deep beneath the planet's surface. Around him, the best military minds in human space watched the alien movements on massive display screens. Every Vorthak ship was tracked and monitored. They're taking the bait perfectly, said Captain Yoon-hee, head of strategic operations. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent 20 years planning for this exact situation. The aliens are spreading their forces thin across our outer systems, just like we hoped they would. Admiral Jaemin nodded. He was an old soldier who had fought in the border wars against human pirates years ago. How long before they're all in position? Another 2 days, sir. Once they establish occupation forces on all 12 worlds, we activate protocol hammer, Yoon-hee replied. Meanwhile, young Lieutenant Dong-hyun floated in space aboard the stealth ship Silent Running. His job was to watch the Vorthaks and make sure they didn't discover the trap too early. The Silent Running looked like a piece of space debris, just another chunk of metal floating in the void. Through his ship's sensors, Dong-hyun watched Vorthak, forces landing on human colonies. The aliens were setting up bases and communication centers, thinking they were in control. They had no idea that every move they made was being recorded and reported back to human command. Silent running to base. "Command," Dong-hyun whispered into his radio. "Enemy forces are establishing permanent positions on New Sol Colony. They appear to be planning a long-term occupation." "Copy that, silent running. Maintain observation and stay hidden," came the reply. The Vorthaks were making exactly the mistake humans had hoped for. Instead of keeping their fleet together where it would be strong, they were splitting up to control more territory. Each world now had only a small number of enemy ships defending it. Back in the war room, Admiral Jae-min received reports from observers throughout human space. "Sir, the aliens have established bases on all 12 outer worlds. Their fleet is now spread across an area of over 50 light-years." Captain Yoon-hee smiled coldly. "Perfect. They're exactly where we want them." The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing enemy positions. Red dots marked Vorthak ships and bases scattered across human space. "Are our people in position?" "Yes, sir. Every hidden base is powered up and ready. All weapon platforms are online. Our fleet commanders are standing by for orders," Yoon-hee reported. "Then it's time to show these aliens what happens when they murder human civilians," Admiral Jae-min said. On the alien command ship, War Prime Kethvar was celebrating his easy victory. His officers gathered around him as he made a speech about Vorthak's superiority and their destiny to rule the galaxy. "The humans were even weaker than we expected," he told his assembled commanders. "They ran away without even trying to fight. Their technology is primitive, their ships are old, and their people are cowards." The Vorthak officers cheered and laughed. They began making plans for how to use human colonies as bases for attacking other species. Some talked about enslaving any humans they found. Others discussed strip mining human worlds for resources. But if they had looked more carefully at their sensor readings, they might have noticed some strange things. What looked like asteroid fields contained too much metal. Some of those abandoned space stations had very unusual power signatures, and there were far too many pieces of space junk floating around human colonies. Lieutenant Dong-hyun continued his watch from the silent running. He saw Vorthak soldiers walking around human cities, claiming buildings for their own use. They were acting like they owned the place, putting up their flags and making themselves comfortable. "They really think they've won," he said to himself. "They have no idea what's coming." The young officer thought about the 847 civilians who had died at New Hope Station. They had been miners, engineers, and scientists. People who had never hurt anyone. They had families back on Earth and the other colonies. Now they were dead, because aliens thought humans were weak. "Enjoy your victory while you can," Dong-hyun whispered as he watched the Vorthak forces. "In 48 hours, you're all going to be dead." Across human space, the trap was almost ready. Hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as space debris for decades were powering up their systems. Underground bases carved into asteroids were preparing to reveal themselves. Ships that looked like old cargo haulers were dropping their fake hull plating to show military weapons underneath. Most importantly, the human fleet was moving into position. Hundreds of warships were approaching the edges of the occupied systems, staying just outside sensor range. They had been built in secret shipyards and hidden in deep space for years, waiting for this moment. The Vorthaks had made their biggest mistake. They thought conquering human space would be easy because humans seemed weak and primitive. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for invasion for over 2 centuries. Soon, the aliens would learn the truth about humanity, and it would be the last lesson they ever learned. 2 days later, War Prime Kethvar was feeling very pleased with himself. His forces controlled 12 human star systems without losing a single ship. The conquest had been easier than taking candy from a child. He was already planning his next target when everything went wrong. It started with the asteroids. Sub-Commander Veltok was the first to notice something strange. "Sir, I'm getting unusual energy readings from the asteroid field near Colony 7. "What kind of readings?" Kethvar asked, not really paying attention. Power signatures, sir. Very large ones. It's almost like the asteroids are... Veltux. Voice trailed off as his scanner screen lit up with new contacts. Sir, the asteroids are moving. Across human space, what the Vortex thought were harmless chunks of rock suddenly came to life. Hidden doors opened in asteroid surfaces, revealing massive weapon arrays. Space stations that had seemed abandoned powered up their systems and dropped camouflage fields. Even pieces of space debris turned out to be disguised weapon platforms. Fleet Admiral Mi Young sat in the command center of the UES Vengeance, a massive battleship that had been hidden behind Earth's moon. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. All units, this is Admiral Mi Young. Operation Hammer is now active. Light them up. The response was immediate and devastating. Hundreds of hidden weapons opened fire at once. Vorthak ships that thought they were safely anchored near planets suddenly found themselves under attack from every direction. The empty space around them erupted with laser beams, missiles, and particle cannons. Captain Sheng Ho commanded the carrier UES Retribution as it dropped its disguise near the planet New Sol. What had looked like a broken cargo ship suddenly revealed itself as a massive military vessel. Fighter bays opened along its hull, and squadrons of human attack craft poured out like angry wasps. All wings, this is Sheng Ho. Show these aliens what happens when they kill our people, he said into his radio. The human fighters moved with deadly precision. They had trained for this exact scenario hundreds of times. Each pilot knew exactly where to hit enemy ships for maximum damage. The Vorthax had spread their forces so thin that they couldn't defend against the coordinated human attack. On his command ship, War Prime Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. How is this possible? Where did all these weapons come from? His tactical officer was frantically trying to make sense of the scanner readings. Sir, it appears the humans have turned their entire territory into a weapons platform. Every asteroid, every space station, every piece of debris was a hidden weapon system. The truth was even worse than that. Humans had been preparing for alien invasion for over 200 years. Every colony world had been secretly fortified. Underground bases had been carved into planets and moons. The entire outer ring of human space was one massive trap, and the Vortex had walked right into it. Lieutenant Dong Hyun aboard the Silent Running finally revealed his ship's true nature. The space debris suddenly sprouted weapon ports and joined the attack. This is for New Hope Station, he said as he fired missiles at a Vorthak destroyer. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. Dong Hyun felt grim satisfaction as he watched it burn. 847 innocent people had been avenged, but there were still more aliens to kill. Captain Yun-hee coordinated the overall assault from her command post deep underground, on Earth. Giant screens showed the battle raging across 12 star systems. Every human weapon was firing at once, and the results were spectacular. Status report, she said into her headset. Vorthak forces are being destroyed across all target systems, came the reply. Their ships are trying to group together for defense, but we're hitting them faster than they can respond. The Vorthax were learning a hard lesson about human military doctrine. While other species built big fleets and fought in large battles, humans preferred to use surprise, deception, and overwhelming firepower at the moment of their choosing. The aliens had expected to fight human ships. Instead, they were fighting an entire star system that had been turned into a weapon. War Prime Kethvar tried to rally his forces. All ships, form defensive positions around the command vessel. We need to break through their lines and escape to open space. But there were no safe defensive positions. The humans had planned this battle for decades. Every possible escape route was covered by hidden weapons. Every place the Vorthax might try to hide was actually another trap. Captain Sheng Ho led his fighters in an attack on the Vorthak command ship. The alien vessel was massive and heavily armored, but it had been designed to fight other ships, not swarms of small, fast attack craft. Target their engines and weapon systems, Sheng Ho ordered his pilots. I want that ship crippled, not destroyed. We need prisoners for questioning. The human fighters darted around the command ship like angry insects, firing precisely aimed shots at critical systems. The Vorthax tried to fight back, but their heavy weapons couldn't track the fast-moving human craft. Admiral Mi Young watched the battle from the Vengeance. Her ship hadn't even needed to enter combat yet. The hidden defenses were doing most of the work. "How many enemy vessels are still operational?" she asked. "Less than 30%, Admiral. Most of their fleet has been destroyed or disabled," her tactical officer reported. "Excellent. Begin Phase 2 of the operation." Phase 2 was even more devastating than Phase 1. Now that the Vorthak fleet was broken and scattered, human ships began arriving from deeper in human space. These weren't disguised cargo vessels or hidden weapons platforms. These were proper warships built for battle and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity could build. The UES Retribution, the UES Vengeance, and dozens of other human warships surrounded the remaining Vorthak forces. The aliens found themselves trapped in a cage of human firepower with nowhere to run. War Prime Kethavar realized his fleet was doomed. "Send a message to all ships. We're breaking through their lines and retreating to hyperspace." But when his ships tried to jump to hyperspace, nothing happened. The humans had been busy in the 3 days since the invasion started. They had quietly placed hyperspace inhibitor mines throughout the area. The Vorthaks were trapped in human space with no way out. "Sir, we can't jump to hyperspace," his navigation officer reported with panic in his voice. "Something is blocking our hyperspace." Engines. Kethavar felt cold fear for the first time in his military career. His mighty fleet, which had conquered 17 star systems, was trapped and being destroyed by a species he had thought was primitive and weak. "Open a communication channel to the human fleet," he ordered. "We need to negotiate a surrender." "Admiral." Mi Young received the Vorthak surrender request aboard the Vengeance. She looked at it for a moment, then deleted it without reading it completely. "Send them our response," she told her communications officer. "Tell them they killed our civilians. No surrender, no quarter, no mercy." The battle continued until every Vorthak ship was either destroyed or dead in space. It had taken less than 6 hours to completely annihilate a fleet that had conquered 17 star systems. Human space was silent again, except for the wreckage of alien ships floating in the void. The news of the Vorthak fleet's complete destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly knew their name. The mighty Vorthak Empire, conquerors of 17 worlds, had been wiped out in 6 hours by beings most aliens thought were primitive. Colonel Jinnah led the ground forces tasked with retaking human colonies that had been occupied by Vorthak troops. She was a tough woman who had grown up on the frontier worlds and knew every rock and tree on these planets. Her soldiers moved through familiar territory like ghosts, striking without warning. The Vorthak ground forces had thought they were safe on the planet's surface. Their ships in orbit were supposed to protect them. Now those ships were burning debris, and the alien soldiers found themselves trapped on hostile worlds with enemies who knew the terrain better than they did. "Remember, these aliens killed 800 innocent civilians," Jinnah told her troops before each mission. "They chose to murder our people instead of accepting our warning. Show them what that choice costs." The human soldiers fought with a cold fury that terrified the surviving Vorthaks. These weren't professional soldiers fighting for conquest or glory. These were people defending their homes and avenging their dead. Every human on these worlds had lost friends or family when New Hope Station was destroyed. On the colony world of New Sol, Captain Wansik led a siege against the main Vorthak command post. The aliens had barricaded themselves in the colony city hall, thinking the thick walls would protect them. They didn't understand human tactics. Wansik didn't attack the building directly. Instead, he surrounded it and waited. Then he activated the building's own systems against the occupiers. The air conditioning was turned off, the water was shut down, the lights were cut, even the waste disposal systems stopped working. "Attention Vorthak forces," Wansik broadcast over loudspeakers. "You are trapped in a building we designed and built. We control every system inside it. You can surrender now, or you can die slowly as we make your lives miserable." But surrender wasn't really an option. Admiral Mi Young's orders had been clear. No quarter meant no prisoners. The Vorthaks had murdered civilians, and the penalty for that was death. The psychological warfare was just as effective as the physical attacks. One Sick made sure every dying Vorthak soldier's screams were broadcast across all communication frequencies. He wanted the galaxy to hear what happened to those who harmed human civilians. Other alien species monitored these broadcasts with growing alarm. The humans weren't just defeating their enemies. They were systematically destroying them while making sure everyone could hear the results. Back on Earth, Dr. Yi-Jun worked around the clock in the research labs, studying captured Vorthak technology. Humans had a simple rule about warfare: learn from everything. Every alien weapon, every piece of equipment, every computer system was torn apart and analyzed. Their shield technology is actually quite advanced, Yi-Jun reported to Admiral Jae-min. With some modifications, we can improve our own defensive systems by 30%. What about their weapons? The Admiral asked. Crude but effective. They rely on brute force rather than precision. However, their power generation systems are interesting. We might be able to adapt them for our own ships. This was another thing that made humans dangerous. They didn't just defeat their enemies and move on. They learned from every battle, took the best technology from their opponents and used it to become even stronger. Every race that fought humans made all humans more dangerous. The few surviving Vorthak forces, led by Sub-Commander Veltok, attempted one last desperate move. They tried to contact Human Command to negotiate a surrender. They offered to provide information about other alien threats, to share their technology, even to serve as human allies. Admiral Jae-min read their surrender offer and felt nothing but cold anger. Send them our response, he told his communications officer. The message that went back to the surviving Vorthaks was simple and direct. You had your chance to leave peacefully. You chose to murder our civilians instead. There will be no negotiation, no surrender, no prisoners. You will all die for what you have done. The galaxy listened to this exchange with growing fear. Most species were used to wars that ended with negotiations and treaties. Enemies would fight, one side would win, and then they would make peace. The humans were showing no interest in making peace with anyone who had killed their people. Captain Ian-Hee coordinated the final phases of the cleanup operation. Every Vorthak base was destroyed. Every alien soldier was hunted down and killed. Even their equipment was melted down rather than being left intact. Sir, we've confirmed elimination of all Vorthak forces across all 12 systems, she reported to Admiral Jae-min. Total enemy casualties 100%, human casualties minimal. The Admiral nodded grimly. And their homeworlds? Intelligence indicates the Vorthak Empire maintained 17 colony worlds plus their home system. All locations have been identified and marked for future action. This sent shockwaves through galactic society when the information leaked out. The humans weren't just defending their territory. They were planning to hunt down every single Vorthak in the galaxy. Complete extermination of an entire species. Some alien races tried to intervene. The Melidae, a peaceful species known for diplomacy, sent messages to human space asking for mercy for the remaining Vorthaks. The human response was cold and final. The Vorthaks made their choice when they murdered our civilians, came the reply. We offered them peace. They chose war. Now they face the consequences of that choice. Other species began to recalculate their opinions of humanity. The trade-focused Nexari quietly sent diplomatic messages offering friendship and economic partnerships. The predatory Skarn Empire, which had been planning their own expansion into human space, canceled those plans permanently. Most telling was the reaction of the Zephyrian Council, which governed one of the largest stellar federations in the galaxy. They issued an official statement declaring human space to be off-limits to all member species. The message was clear. Don't bother the humans unless you want to end up like the Vorthaks. Lieutenant Dong-hyun, now promoted to captain for his service, during the battle was assigned to lead hunting expeditions beyond human space. His mission was to find and eliminate any remaining Vorthak forces anywhere in the galaxy. Sir, why are we doing this? Asked one of his junior officers. The invasion is over. We won. Dong-hyun looked at the young officer seriously. Because if we let even one Vorthak live, other species might think they can attack us and survive. We need to send a message that is absolutely clear. Touch human space, harm human civilians, and your entire species dies. Every last one. The galaxy was learning a new rule. Humans could be peaceful neighbors and valuable trading partners, but they could also be the most ruthless enemies any species had ever faced. The choice was up to each alien race to make. The Vorthax had made the wrong choice. Now they were paying the ultimate price for their mistake, and every other species in the galaxy was taking notes. 6 months after the destruction of the Vorthak invasion fleet, the galaxy was a very different place. News of humanity's complete victory had reached every corner of known space. Species that had never heard of humans before were now very interested in learning about them. Ambassador Hyejin stepped onto the floor of the Galactic Council for the first time in human history. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice, but everyone in the chamber could feel the danger that surrounded her. The representative of a species that had just wiped out an entire alien empire. The council chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from over 300 different species. Most of them had never seen a human before. They whispered among themselves as Hyejin walked to the speaking platform at the center of the room. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I am Ambassador Hyejin, representing the United Earth Federation and all human colonies. I come before you today to make something very clear about human space and human intentions. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien representative leaned forward to hear what she would say. Human space is clearly marked on all galactic navigation charts. Our borders are not suggestions. They are not guidelines. They are absolute boundaries that will be defended with everything we have. Her voice remained calm, but there was ice in her words. What happened to the Vorthak Empire will happen to anyone who crosses those boundaries with hostile intent. Councillor Vextai of the Melody Federation stood up. The Melody were known as peaceful beings who always tried to solve problems through talking rather than fighting. Ambassador, surely there must be room for negotiation if boundaries are crossed accidentally. Hyejin looked at the Melody representative with cold eyes. The Vorthax were warned. They chose to ignore that warning and murder 847 human civilians. There was nothing accidental about their actions. But complete extermination of a species seems excessive, Vextai continued. Could not some form of punishment short of genocide have been appropriate? Genocide implies the killing of innocents, Hyejin replied. The Vorthax were not innocent. They were an aggressive military empire that had conquered 17 star systems through violence and oppression. They came to our space to do the same thing. We simply showed them that humans do not make good victims. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Many species were disturbed by human ruthlessness. Others were impressed by human effectiveness. A few were quietly making plans to improve their own defenses in case they ever faced human displeasure. Councillor Zarthon of the Nexari Trade Union stood next. The Nexari were merchants and business people who cared more about profit than politics. Ambassador Hyejin, would humanity be interested in establishing trade relationships with peaceful species? For the first time since entering the chamber, Hyejin smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, but it wasn't hostile either. Humans are always interested in trading with peaceful neighbors. We have much to offer in terms of technology, resources, and knowledge. But such relationships must be built on mutual respect and clear understanding of boundaries. Rear Admiral Kyung-soo was busy establishing humanity's first official diplomatic post at the edge of human space. The massive space station was called The Warning, and it served as both embassy and fortress. Any alien ship that wanted to enter human space had to stop there first. The station was impressive and intimidating. It was clearly designed for both diplomacy and war. Beautiful gardens and meeting rooms sat next to weapon batteries and military hangars. The message was clear. Humans could be friends or enemies, but the choice was up to the visitors. Sir, we have another delegation requesting permission to enter human space, reported Lieutenant Minho from the communications center. Who is it? This time? Kyung-soo asked. The Crystalline Collective. They want to discuss mining rights in the asteroid belt near our border. Schedule them for next week. Make sure they understand the rules before they come aboard. No weapons, no recording devices, and no more than 5 representatives. The warning had processed over 50 alien delegations in the past 6 months. Most came seeking trade agreements or non-aggression pacts. A few came just to see humans for themselves, curious about the species that had destroyed the Vorthak Empire so completely. Explorer Su Jung led the first human expedition beyond their own space in over a century. Her mission was to make contact with alien species and establish relationships based on mutual benefit rather than conquest. Her ship, the UES Pathfinder, was unlike any vessel aliens had seen before. It looked like a peaceful exploration ship, but the aliens who scanned it could detect hidden weapons and advanced technology. The humans were making it clear that even their diplomats were dangerous. "Captain, we're receiving a communication from the Altarian Republic," reported her communications officer. "Put them through," Su Jung replied. The alien voice that came through the speakers was nervous and respectful. "Human vessel, this is Defense Coordinator Quindar of the Altarian Republic. We welcome you to our space. How may we assist you?" "Thank you for the welcome, Coordinator Quindar. We're here to discuss establishing peaceful relations between our species. We understand you have technology that might be useful for medical research, and we have defensive systems that might interest you." The conversation that followed was polite and productive. The Altarians had heard about human military capabilities and were very interested in defensive alliances. They had also heard about human ruthlessness toward enemies and were determined not to become targets themselves. Back in the Galactic Council, the debate about humanity continued for hours. Some species wanted to form alliances with the powerful newcomers. Others wanted to isolate humans and hope they would stay in their own space. A few suggested trying to form a coalition against humanity before they became too powerful. Counselor Brixtal of the Scaran Empire listened to the debates with growing unease. The Scaran were warriors themselves, known for their aggressive expansion and military might. They had been planning to test human defenses after the Vorthak invasion ended. Now those plans were permanently cancelled. The Scaran were tough, but they weren't stupid. Any species that could destroy the Vorthak Empire in 6 hours was not someone to fight unless absolutely necessary. "The humans have sent a clear message," Brixtal said when he was finally called to speak. "They will defend their territory with overwhelming force. As warriors, we understand and respect this position. The Scaran Empire has no intention of testing human resolve." Ambassador He Jin nodded approvingly at this statement. "The Scaran have always been honest about their intentions. We respect that honesty. As long as Scaran forces stay out of human space, there will be no conflict between our peoples." The session continued with species after species declaring their intentions to respect human boundaries. Trade agreements were discussed. Non-aggression pacts were proposed. Scientific exchange programs were suggested. But underneath all the diplomatic language, everyone understood the real message. Humans had proven they could destroy any threat to their territory completely and without mercy. The galaxy had gained a new power, and that power demanded respect. As the session ended, Hyejin delivered her closing statement. "Humans seek peaceful coexistence with all species. We are willing to trade, to share knowledge, and to cooperate in mutual defense against common threats, but we will not tolerate aggression against our people or our territory." She paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of different species. "Ask the Vorthaks what happens to those who test our resolve. Oh wait, you can't, they don't exist anymore." The silence that followed was complete and absolute. The message had been delivered, and every alien in the chamber understood it perfectly. No one invades human space. The aliens had learned the difficult way. 5 years had passed since the Vorthak invasion, and the galaxy had settled into a new reality. Human space remained completely inviolate. Not a single alien vessel had crossed into human territory without invitation, and those who were invited followed human rules absolutely. General Bora stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha, watching the completion of humanity's greatest engineering project. The Iron Curtain was a massive network of weapon platforms, sensor arrays, and automated defense systems that surrounded all of human space like a protective shell. "Status report," she said to her aide, Colonel Taiwan. Final installation is complete, General. We now have complete coverage of all approaches to human space. Any ship larger than a fighter that tries to cross our borders without permission will be destroyed automatically. Bora nodded with satisfaction. The Iron Curtain wasn't just about defense. It was also about sending a message to the galaxy. Humans would remain isolated until they chose otherwise, and that choice would always be theirs alone. What about the diplomatic stations? She asked. The Warning and its sister stations are operating at full capacity. We're processing about 200 alien diplomatic requests per month. Most are trade negotiations or requests for defensive alliances. The diplomatic stations had become the only way for aliens to officially contact humanity. Any ship that wanted to enter human space had to stop at one of these heavily armed platforms first. The process was deliberately slow and thorough, giving humans time to evaluate every visitor carefully. Captain Han Wool commanded the joint training facility where humans worked with their most trusted alien allies. Only 5 species had been granted this level of access, and only after years of proving their good intentions. Today we're practicing combined fleet tactics, Han Wool told the mixed group of human and alien officers. Remember, coordination and communication are the keys to success. The Altarians had been the first to earn human trust. Their medical technology had proven valuable for treating human diseases, and they had shared it freely without asking for military secrets in return. The Nexari had followed, offering fair trade deals and keeping their word on every contract. The Melody had earned human respect through their diplomatic efforts. They had helped resolve several conflicts between humans and other species without ever taking sides or demanding favors. The Coranian engineers were valued for their technical knowledge, and the Harmony Coalition had proven themselves through years of peaceful cooperation. But even these trusted allies were kept at arm's length. Humans shared some technology and tactics with their friends, but the most devastating weapons remained human secrets. Sir, the Altarian squadron is having trouble with the new formation protocols, reported Lieutenant Sang-Ho. Give them more time, Han Wool replied. They're used to defensive thinking. It takes a while to learn offensive tactics. The truth was that humans were teaching their allies how to fight more effectively, but they were very careful about what they taught. Human military doctrine remained humanity's most closely guarded secret. Meanwhile, Dr. Yojin had become the head of the Human Research Collective, a massive scientific organization dedicated to advancing human technology. Her teams worked constantly to stay ahead of any potential threats. We've completed analysis of the Skarn Empire's military capabilities, she reported to the Defense Council. Their ships are heavily armored but slow. Their weapons are powerful but have limited range. We could defeat their entire fleet without significant losses. What about the Crystalline Collective? Asked Admiral Jamin. More dangerous. Their energy weapons are quite advanced, and their ships are fast. However, they have weak defensive systems. A surprise attack would be devastating to them. This constant analysis of potential threats was another thing that made humans dangerous. They didn't just defend against current enemies. They studied every species in the galaxy and planned for possible conflicts with all of them. The galaxy had learned to live with this new reality. Trade with humans was profitable but carefully regulated. Human territory was absolutely off limits. Human technology was advanced but closely guarded. Most importantly, human patience was limited but their memory was perfect. 3 different species had learned this lesson the hard way over the past 5 years. The hegemony pirates had tried to raid human merchant ships and been hunted down and exterminated completely. The Void Seekers had attempted to establish a secret base in human space and been destroyed so thoroughly that not even wreckage remained. The Red Claw Syndicate had kidnapped human civilians for slaves and discovered that humans would chase them across the entire galaxy for revenge. In each case, the human response had been swift, total, and absolutely ruthless. The galaxy understood that humans didn't forgive crimes against their people, and they never forgot who had wronged them. Ambassador Hyojin had become one of the most influential figures in galactic politics. Her words carried weight because everyone knew what humanity was capable of if provoked. The Terran Republic has requested mediation in their border dispute with the Jade Empire, reported her assistant, diplomat Jun Seo. What's the nature of the conflict? Hyejin asked. Both sides claim the same star system. Neither wants to back down, but both are afraid to start a war while we're watching. Hyejin smiled slightly. Human neutrality had become valuable in galactic politics. No one wanted to fight a war while humans were paying attention, because humans had a habit of taking action against anyone who caused too much trouble. Schedule meetings with both sides. We'll help them find a peaceful solution that doesn't require us to get involved militarily. The threat of human intervention had prevented dozens of wars over the past 5 years. Most species preferred to negotiate rather than risk drawing human attention to their conflicts. The story reached its conclusion in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, where Ambassador Hyejin addressed the assembled representatives one final time before returning to Earth for reassignment. 5 years ago, humanity joined galactic society under tragic circumstances, she began. The Vorthak Empire chose to invade our space and murder our civilians. They learned too late that humans do not make good victims. The chamber was completely silent. Many of the representatives had been here 5 years ago when humanity first made contact. All of them remembered the fear and uncertainty of those early days. Since then, the galaxy has learned to live with humanity as neighbors. We have proven that we can be valuable allies and trustworthy trading partners. We have also proven that we can be terrible enemies for those who choose that path. A new representative from the recently contacted Spiral Federation raised her hand. She was young and hadn't been present for the Vorthak destruction. Ambassador, my species is curious about expanding into the Outer Rim territories. Some of those systems appear to be uninhabited. Hyejin's smile turned cold as ice. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Every alien representative who had been there 5 years ago suddenly looked terrified. Which system specifically? Hyejin asked in a dangerously quiet voice. The region marked as Sector 7G on the galactic charts. It appears to be empty space, with no claimed ownership. The chamber erupted in panicked whispers. Several alien representatives tried to signal the young Spiral Federation delegate to stop talking, but she didn't understand the danger she was in. Hyejin stood slowly and walked closer to the Spiral Federation representative. Her voice remained calm, but everyone in the chamber could feel the deadly threat beneath her words. That sector is marked as human space on every galactic chart. It has been marked as human space for over 300 years. The borders are clearly defined and widely known. The young alien's skin changed color with fear as she realized her mistake. I apologize, Ambassador. I didn't realize. Let me be very clear, Hyejin continued, her voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. Human space is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is an absolute boundary that will be defended with everything we have. I recommend you study your navigation charts more carefully. She turned to address the entire chamber, making sure every representative could see her face. For those who might have forgotten after 5 years of peace, let me remind you of our position. Humans seek peaceful coexistence with all species. We are willing to trade, to cooperate, and to assist our friends. But we will not tolerate aggression against our people or violations of our territory. The silence was complete and absolute. Ask the Vorthaks what happens to those who test our resolve. Ask the Hegemony Pirates. Ask the Void Seekers. Ask the Red Claw Syndicate. Her smile was terrible to see. Oh wait, you can't, they don't exist anymore. As Ambassador Hyejin left the chamber for the final time, every alien representative understood the lesson perfectly. Humanity had found its place in galactic society, and that place was wherever they chose it to be. No one invaded human space. The aliens had learned the difficult way, and their screams still echoed as a warning to others. The galaxy had a new order, and humanity was its most dangerous guardian.